Okay. Maybe this will work better now. Um, let's see. Does my camera work again? Okay, maybe. Maybe. Well, that's fun. I love tech support issues. I totally know what I'm doing. Okay, I am going to just assume it's working now. Maybe. And go back to working on my lambs. So I guess in the previous episode, I got the head put together for both of the lambs now. The one, which I forget which one, has a magnet. Not that one. That one has a magnet in it. Oh. So, got my two lamb heads. I've put together both of the bodies. The one was already done. This one I just put together now. And I need to stuff the legs so I can put them in there. And then there's going to be some hand sewing after that. Make the crowns and then some hand sewing. Hi, Sunbay. Welcome to me and my technology are not getting along again. I'm doing fine. How are you doing? Oh, I'm glad Twitch is working. Now you'll just have to contend with my technology not working. So maybe my video will freeze all over again and that'll be fun. So I'm really hoping to finish up these two lambs today. I don't think I'm going to have any issue doing that. They should be easy enough to finish today, but if I have to do lots of figuring out the stream, that might cut into the time. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my OBS right now because it says that everything is frozen. But if I go to Firefox, Firefox says everything is fine. So I'm going to trust Firefox and just ignore OBS for right now. Okay, that leg needs a little bit more stuffing. Okay. There we go. So there's my two legs. This is the front side of the leg because the bottom of the foot brushes down nicely that way. So I just have to make sure that I put them in the right sides. There we go. And then the entire body just kind of gets scrunkled up around the legs. There we go. Oh, that one came apart. Okay, so I am going to go back to my machine and re-stitch right there. Those threads just came apart, so I'm going to make sure that that's nice and secure. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it might very well be my laptop is having the issues. I got a laptop that was good for drawing on the go and not for anything else or like heavy work beyond that. Um, the upload rate, I've at least figured that out. I actually have an Ethernet cord now, so it's doing a little bit better there. But yeah, I'm gonna figure this out eventually. I have not actually played Cult of the Lamb myself. I don't really play a lot of games anyways. Um I have joined lots of cults on Twitch though, and in almost every single one of them I have died via the ritual slap fight. So I'm very pleased about that. Oh yeah, I love the music of the game. Okay, for now working good. Yay! Ah, I'm just fingers crossed it stays like that. I don't know what I did to break it, but I'm going to try not to do that same thing again. Okay, so I don't need that fluff anymore. Okay, so I've got my heads, they are stuffed. I have to sew on the legs to these funky little folded bodies. The magnet lamb has got its magnet inside. The other magnet is going to go into the crown. That does need to be hand stitched on right now. I could do that. So, there we go. Okay. And then just to keep that magnet in place, I do kind of stitch around it, and it sticks to the magnet really well. Okay. Oh, I could move the the microphone right now is as high as I can make it go. Ah, magnet. I can move it closer to me today because I'm going to be mostly working on my table. I just don't know how to move it. Like, I don't want to do that on a regular basis because I'll move it even closer to my machines and they make lots of loud, angry noises. Um, but yeah, let me at least move the microphone a little bit closer to me today. Put that down for now. Where in OBS? I don't know. That wooden moose kind of matches all the other wood stuff I have in my room right now. So I don't know if I want to. Well, I'd have to paint everything, my table, my shelves. I kind of like the raw wood look. Okay, is that any louder if I'm talking now? Darn. Okay. Okay, so that will definitely just be a judo question later on. Because I'm not sure what more to do there. So I'm going to just be very quiet today. Yeah, I'm gonna try and troubleshoot later. That's kind of been my plan is like yesterday I had really sucky upload and everything, and so I just went with it. Today I will just go with what I have now, which is slightly better, and my hopes is every day I just get slightly better and better until I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I think once I'm done streaming today, I'll send Judo another message and see if they can. Well, I'll be able to listen to my own stream and see how things are going, and then I'll send them a message and see if they can help me out with more stuff. They did help me with, I have a hopefully, fingers crossed, I have a follower alert that works today and the little chat box. So Judo helped me with that yesterday. So that was pretty good. Okay. Okay. And then I just need to figure out which side of the magnet. Okay, so the magnet's going to stick on like this to the little crown. So that just gets a little stitch in place there. Okay, so now I've got the magnet in the right place for the crown. Now I just get to stitch it into the crown itself, and this is a little bit annoying to do on the machine because the magnet likes sticking to the metal plate there, but it looks a lot better than me hand sewing it, so just lots of pins and going slowly on this one. Got some extra paper from the embroidery. We don't need any of that. Yes, murdered lambs. Beheaded murdered lambs. This is the dark side of plushie making. I go from like Hannibal Lecter to cute little animals at the end. Ah, come on. This part is a lot of pins. So I use a couple of different fabrics when I'm making the plushies. And so this lamb has the Sherpa, which is the white, really, really fluffy part, the actual lamb. The face is made out of just minky, which is just a fuzzy, soft. Most stuffed animals are made from like a minky, but the little crown here is made from what's called mochi minky, which is extra thin and extra stretchy, and it tends to slide away from where you want it to be quite easily. Like the edge just completely went in. So it needs a lot more pins to keep it in place than some other nicer, well-behaved fabrics. But the end result is that you have like a very, very soft, like velvety feeling little crown. And it doesn't have the same fuzziness as the lamb itself does. So it looks like it's like actual like clothing or an accessory and not just a part of the lamb itself's like its body. So, okay, there's all my pins. Now I'm going to take that over and stitch all the way around the base, leaving just a little space so that I can flip it inside out and then stuff it. Front of nail, thank you. Okay, little crown should be good. I still need to flip it and just check for any little holes that may have escaped me, but I think, well, I saw one and I think I got it, so we should be good there. So, okay. Yes, Sunday, I'm the one who made Alt's potato plush. So that one was pretty fun to make. I really do like making unique, like never before made sort of plushies, things that I have to make a brand new pattern for. The biggest problem I've run into with that is, though, every time I make a pattern uniquely, it takes a lot of time. So those are fairly expensive plushies, and there's a very small market for them. So a lot of the things I end up having to do instead of like the unique plushies are like the lambs, where I did get to design this all myself, but now I'm making multiple copies of it. Oh, there is supposed to be a little sound with the new follower alert. So, okay, it's 50% working. I will take that as a success for today. Okay, so that crown looks good, covered in fluff, but it looks good. So now I just get to stuff it. And pull out my medium-sized bag of stuffing. That probably sounds really great. It's right next to the microphone. Yeah, custom stuff is tough. Like the majority of the cost of making something custom is just making the pattern for it. Um like stitching it up, once I've got a pattern good to go, I can stitch something up in like a day or two. Uh it's the making the pattern and making sure that it's the right shapes first that really takes the most time. So I do have a custom project that I'm working on right now. I don't know how many of the pieces I have left. Yeah, so like the custom plushie that I'm working on right now, the first face I made a shape to it. It's no longer stuffed, but I put together a face. And then from there showed it to the person who's buying the plushie. And they gave me feedback on the shape of it. So I made a second shape, fixed it up a little bit better, but it still wasn't quite the right shape that they were looking for. So I ended up making another one that they liked a bit more, shredded that apart, and I've got my fourth version of the head already. That is all time that it took to make this little guy, whereas the actual like sewing up of this head took me maybe 25-30 minutes. So most of the time of custom plushie making is just making sure that that face shape looks right. Hi, Judo! letting OBS control the audio so it can be heard. Is that like where I go in the same place where we did the music thing? Ah, no. I should put the lamb faces back on stream there. There. Content. Ah. Oh, this magnet is misbehaving. Okay. Hang on. Stuffing comes out. Ah. The browser source that I made for my alert and go into the options there. Okay. Let me finish stuffing up this crown, and then I'm going to try that right now. Bodies. So, and I had mentioned earlier that this is Mochi Minky that's super stretchy. So this is just how stretchy it is. Super extra stretchy. So I'm using mochi stuffing as well. This stuff doesn't bunch or clump up. So it will actually stretch with the crown if it needs to, and then come back and without causing any of those bumps or lumpiness to the plushie. Hi, Pick! Also, these are my tweezer assistants. Because I've got a magnet in there, it wasn't staying at the bottom of the crown where it was supposed to, so I just stuck something metal to it, so now it's trying to stay at the bottom. So, very helpful tweezer assistants. Okay, a little bit more into the back there. I've got a gap right about there. Okay. So that crown is all stuffed up. Now, magnet flipped. Extra annoying. Okay, hang on. Magnet. Where is the magnet in there? There we go. Now the crown is stuck on. We've got magnet in there. I'll just stitch that up and that crown is done. So, woo, magnet hat. Yes, the lambs are going to have capes. Those have already been made. Or at least a couple of them have been made. So, whoop. Yep, so there's the little cape that goes with it. It is removable. So it's got a little clasp on it. And an actual bell that's really, really annoying. So, but I keep these bagged up. I put those bells away somewhere else. I keep the capes all bagged up while I'm working on the lambs just because they also collect fuzz really, really easy like the white Sherpa does. So rather than having to clean them all up, I like to just hide them away and only bring them out when I'm ready to mail out the lamb. Okay, let me see if I can get back over to my computer and figure out the alert sound thing. Okay, I go to Stream Elements. No, OBS. Whoop. I know what I'm doing here. Okay, Judo, I require help. For the follower alert to make sound, do I have to go into OBS or Stream Elements? Oh, well, that wants me to do Discord on my phone, but my phone is currently a camera. Hang on, let me open Discord on my computer. And everybody else in the stream, I will be right back. So I have sound now. Woo! Okay, now I need lots of people to follow me so I can actually test and see the sound work. Aha! Okay. So, back to the sewing now. Oh, and OBS finally tells me I have a working camera, so that's cool. Thank you, OBS. Okay, so I've got my heads. This little hat is getting sewn on, so it doesn't get a magnet, and I'm not really going to have to sew the base on the machine either. I'm going to just kind of whip stitch that to the bottom of this one really quick to keep it the same general shape. But that takes much less time than all the pinning and sewing, so that's going to be a hand sewing thing as well. Ah, so many little thread. Yeah, Spotify will be set up as soon as I have a less annoying playlist. I'm the kind of person who will put one song on repeat and listen to it literally all day long. And I probably don't want to do that for a stream. That feels like a really good way to not have people watch me. So I need to make a slightly more human playlist. And then I'll put that in my stream as well. Oh, I could do that. I could make multiple playlists. Like if I'm making lambs, I could just do the Cult of the Lamb music. That would be cool. I don't know how to put in a playlist on YouTube right now, so I will figure that one out tonight as well. Okay. So this is now all hand sewing, putting everybody else together. I've got these two for the tops of their heads. The horns are one of the last things I put on just because they'll be centered around whatever else goes on there. The crown will be on the head there. I think what I'm going to do next is the bodies so that they stop looking so squonky. Yeah. So I'll get those little legs stitched on next. Steal all my threads. Black, white, and gray. Okay. So legs. Okay. Okay, that's a little bit small. The Sherpa, the white Sherpa fabric, is a very open weave kind of fabric. So I like making the knots extra large. I don't know if that works or not. Yeah, little knot there. I like making them extra large just because you can actually see like through the fabric on the Sherpa. Well, I don't know if you can on the camera, but I definitely can in person. So I don't like having the small knots because that can actually go through that fabric and start falling apart. How hard it would be to add a crystal eye and some red LEDs. I don't do a lot of LED work or anything like that. I do work with resin, so I could make like a clear resin eye, and then basically when you're adding anything electronic into a plushie, you just leave a gap in the back that's either zipper or velcro, something like that, so that you can then put a battery pack with the lights behind it and just stuff it in there. So probably what I would end up doing is just making like a little pouch or something in the inside behind the eyes, making the eyes out of like a clear just like circle of like clear resin or something like that, maybe clear plastic. Um, and then letting whoever buys it put in the LED lights behind there. Yeah, not slipping out is like terrible. I don't like that at all because then you have to go through and fix it, and like one knot slipping out just means like the rest of the stitches are now all loose all the way around. It just gets annoying. So, not my favorite repair job. And okay, so that's halfway around the leg there. And then I'm going to go end up going back around the stitches I just did, but now in between them, just to reinforce them. And then I'll do the other side and go back on that side as well. Again, this is just kind of, it'll help with if the knot does slip out. The ends of thread are where the issues usually happen, not so much the middle of thread. So if I start here and go around and back, now I've got that middle of the thread that's going to be covering that starting knot and kind of helping to hold things together. And where I ended and turned around, that will also be kind of protected. Like it's not really an end, it's a fold in the middle. So going back over the thread is just another way to kind of secure it a bit. When you're sewing on your sewing machine, you can do a little back stitch at the beginning and end of your line, which is essentially the same thing, where the stitches will just go forward and then back over it again to kind of lock them in place that way. You can't really do that with hand stitching. Uh, not the same way because hand stitching stitches are usually farther apart unless you are really super precise and like pay attention to what you're doing, and I just kind of sew. So my stitches are a little bit farther apart, so going back over them is just like the full halfway around is just my way of securing them in place like the back stitch would. Okay, so that's one leg on. 3 more to go. Yep, come on. There you go. Leg. And I like checking around the edges just in case I've missed something or there's a bit sticking out. So that looks good. Leg. So now I can go back inside and get all scrunched up so I can then work on the next leg. Yeah, absolutely. Sunbay, if you want to order a plush in the future, no worries. This is, if everything goes well, this is going to be my full-time job for quite a while. I really do enjoy this, and I'm not using my college degree for anything, so this is kind of what I want to do for quite a while. This and make sewing patterns for people to make their own plushies. Uh, that's kind of what I'm pivoting into being my full-time career. So, yeah, anytime you'd like a plushie, just let me know. Um, I probably won't do anything with actual LEDs because me and technology don't really work that well together. But I could make something just whatever you like there and then leave options for you if that's something you want. Um, or I can just make standard plushies as well. I am very good at them. Yeah, the amount of technology that I put into my plushies kind of maxes out at I will buy a voice box and put it into a plushie. I've done that with a teddy bear. Um and I put wire and armature inside of things so that they're posable. That's about the extent of what I put inside the plushies though. Oh, and I can do resin, little resin bits. I'll mold something out of resin and put that in there. I am kind of working on a new idea. I have no idea if this will work or not, but uh, I'm gonna just experiment and see if this works or not. I'm trying to make like a little paw pad for like just any animal that has toe beans, and make those beans out of like a squishy, like I don't even know what it's called. Just like make them squishy instead of making them plush. So that's going to be something I'm experimenting with. I've gotten the squishy stuff for it. I just need to mold a paw pad and then actually make it. But that I'm not being paid to make, so it goes on the back burner. Ow! That's my second stab today. Okay, leg is half on. Go. Oop, almost done. Yay. Hand sewing is probably my least favorite part of plushie making, just because it is just back and forth repetitive over and over and over, but it is very much required. So it would be incredibly difficult for me to put these legs on by machine. I could, like, this is something that you can do. But what I did is I stitched the front and back of the body together first and then stuffed the legs and sewed them on. In order to put the legs on with my sewing machine, what I really would have had to do is sew the front half of the leg to the front half of the body, sew the back half of the leg to the back half of the body, and then sew the whole thing together afterwards. Uh, I've done that for some, especially when they need like lots of like security, like if they're going to be given to someone who's like rough housing with them or really like carrying them around by an arm, the arm being attached by a sewing machine rather than by hand just makes that joint even more secure. It's a little bit harder for me to match up the legs with the holes they go to, or like arms to the holes they go to when they're this small. It's very tiny and finicky. So on larger stuffed animals, I will sew them by machine. On smaller guys like this, I just sew them by hand. Not dyeing. I do dye fabric. Not anything to do with these little lambs though. And this is okay. So this is the front of the body here. So that little lamb just goes together just like that. Now I get to do the second leg, or the second body there. Oh, hand sewing least part. Dyeing is annoying, but I don't do it often. Custom dyeing fabric, like changing the color of a fabric, will take me an entire day of work. And that's usually the only thing I can work on, because if I touch the dye, it immediately stains your hands, and I don't want to work on other projects with that. So it gets kind of expensive because you're paying me for an entire day of just making your fabric. So I really don't do that often. Most people just find the closest similar color and go with that. So while it is annoying, it's very rare that I do that. Hand sewing, I don't think I've made a single plushie ever that has not involved sitting here slowly sewing it together by hand. Yeah, gradients take forever. That little tiny gradient that I had yesterday, this little guy right here. Let's see. Yeah, it looks pretty good on camera there. Okay. That little gradient took me like 3.5 hours of work, and then I had to let it dry to actually see what the end result was and if it actually like came out. So that's not fun. But it's not, I don't think it's as annoying or frustrating as hand sewing still. Just because it doesn't happen as commonly. That is not enough thread for a leg. Yeah, literally sitting there like blotting it with a paper towel because also the way I do the dyeing, um eventually I'd like to get an airbrush and be able to do that. I do dyeing in a pot on the stove right now, and that makes like you bring the dye to an almost boil, and that there is it's warm enough that you can actually reshape the fuzz on the minky if you're not careful. So you can't really like scrunch it up or rub it around at all. Otherwise, the nice soft fluffiness of the minky, it'll end up going in different directions and it just looks terrible at the end. So that was literally just sitting there like gently blotting it, waiting it for dry like that, and it was that was a full day. Oh, tie-dye t-shirts are fun. That's fun to dye because you can't really mess it up. You can just make it look different. I I've never done like a leotard or anything like that. Oh, okay. Oh, color removal. Yeah, bleach not great, but ooh, nope, I've never done anything color removal like that. I would never have I wouldn't have no idea how to do that. Yes, gradient stuff, Sunbay, is very hard to find an actual fabric in a gradient, especially the kinds of fabrics that I use. You can usually find like cottons or like stuff that you might use for a clothing item that come in funky colors or gradients like that. And you can have fabric like dyed or printed on, like custom made prints, but it doesn't really work very well on minky, which is the main thing that I use, the extra soft fluffy stuff. If you're getting it like custom made printed for you, it just prints on the top layer of the fluff. So when you rub it backwards, you can see all the white from the base fabric underneath it. So it's not super high quality. And finding a specific gradient, usually you can't find exactly what you're looking for. Like in the gradient that I'm making, I only need it to be about 6 inches from like light blue to dark blue. Trying to find that in a fabric that is pre-made, almost impossible. So it's a lot easier, even though it's more time consuming, it's a lot easier to just try and make that gradient myself. A lot of fabric also comes in either a like a 44 inch, a little over a meter wide, or in 60 inches wide. Um, so when you do find gradient type fabric, it usually goes that entire width. So it would be like light blue all the way over here and then dark blue here, whereas I only need the little section light blue to dark blue. A lot of plushie makers well, I talk to a lot of plushie makers just because it's what I do. A lot of people who make like highly custom plushies will just tell the people like your character has a gradient on it, but just pick one of the colors and use that. Like no gradient on the plushie because it does save a lot of time and therefore like brings the price down quite a bit. The gradient that I'm doing now is specifically because, well, I took a commission for a character that was really cool, had a bunch of colors, had a bunch of different features on it, purely because I don't have anything in my portfolio with all of those features. So I'm basically making this plushie at cost, not really doing any of my time into it. So I want to show off that I can indeed do those gradients for the future. So I am going all out and making that full gradient for the hair. Okay. I'm gonna sew another leg on now. Okay. Leg. Whew. Ah, ah. How many of the lambs since you visited? These are actually the two lambs that I had on order when you had visited. This is, I think, the longest I've gone without selling a lamb since I made them, which was about a month after the game came out. Um, it's kind of nice because I've had a break from non-lamb related things so that I can work on other projects as well. But yeah, I think this is lamb 36 and 37 that I've ended up making now. Yeah, probably. I had a lot. Well, because they released the official plushies and they sold out like in minutes, like 3 times. So, right after each of those sales sold out, I did get a bunch of orders then. And then it got quiet for a little bit, and then they announced that there was going to be the DLC. I got a bunch of orders, and then they announced there was the DLC, and I got some more orders there. Either way, I have fabric cut out for another 10 lambs. So, what I'm planning on doing is just kind of leaving them available in my shop forever, just in case somebody wants them. Cut up fabric doesn't take much more space than like uncut fabric would, and I don't really have any other use for the Sherpa and stuff that I have. And I make sure that basically all the fabric that I buy has already been covered by other sales. So it's not like I'm working on a deficit here, waiting for the sales to come in to make back the money that I spent. Like every all of these lambs are now covered by things I have already sold. I do make a couple of other plushies for other games. Um, I've made Animal Crossing plushies. I only have, I think, one or two of them left right now in my craft room here. And then I've made the little pigs from. I'm blanking on the Zelda game where you pick the pigs up and you carry them around. I made those little guys. So let me sew this leg on and I'll go grab those just so I can show them off. Wind Waker, yes, that's the one. Yeah, some of the Cult of the Lamb like knockoffs really not nice at all. I really like the official plushie. It's a lot smaller than the one that I make though. Um, yeah, it's adorable, but I don't usually sew things that small, and I try not to copy official plushies or anything like that. I make my own versions of things, mostly because it's making like plushies of a copyrighted thing is a very gray area right now when it comes to like the law. Um, but copying something directly is absolutely not gray. That is very bad. Don't do that. But the second reason is that I like making the patterns. I've actually made a couple of patterns that I'm planning on selling. One of them's listed. The other ones are in varying stages of almost done and ready to sell. But I really like making the sewing patterns in the first place. So copying something exactly is not nearly as fun as like wrangling it from scratch into something like physical like these guys. Okay, one leg done. Let me go grab some more plushies to put on the table here. So there's Raymond, Animal Crossing. I've made him. And then the little piggies from Zelda. Whoop. Pile them up there. So yeah, I have made other like plushies from other games. I've got Animal Crossing. One of the my favorite plushies I ever got to make was Bo, the I think he's a gazelle or an antelope from Animal Crossing, just because he had like such cool horns and his colors. He's like that bright orange. He's one of my favorite characters, and I got to make him twice. Uh, and then I've got the little pigs from Zelda. This is going to be a sewing pattern that I actually end up selling. Um, so if you want to pick up a pig and carry it around, you can. Ah! But I'll have that pattern made as soon as I take a couple more pictures. I try to make them as inclusive for all sewing levels as I can. So I've gone through basically step by step taking pictures of everything that you do, as well as some like tutorials on like basic stitches. Like what I'm using now is a running stitch, so I explain what that is. Just to make sure that like anybody who wants to start sewing could eventually pick up this pattern and sew. Unfortunately, that means I have to take lots and lots of pictures as I go through. So I kind of lost steam on the piggies right at the end. So I do have a couple more pictures to take of them, and then I'll have that sewing pattern for sale. And it is on my to-do list this week to put these little guys up for sale on my Etsy so that people can buy a pre-made pig if you don't want to make one of your own. So I've been just holding on to them for a couple of months now, uh, maybe closer to a year now without listing them. Uh, Promoting myself and actually putting things out there is really my weakest point. I like making the things. It's much more difficult to then like show them off to the world and promote myself. So that's something that I'm trying to focus more on doing and make sure that I've actually like listed things for sale after I make them. I'll move Raymond out of the way so you can just stare at his feet. And I'll put some piggies here. Piggies can hang out with Raymond today. There. I have not actually made Mr. Moustache from my icon as a plushie. I do have a Dapper Moose though. Uh, this is one of my olderest plushies. A little moose guy that I made. He's got the little mustache. This is actually where I got the idea for Mr. Moustache from. I actually made the plushie before I made Mr. Moustache himself. So I made the moose, and he's just kind of been hanging out with me ever since. I have listed him for sale, and I did sell one, but then I felt really bad, like not having the original, so I made him, and I haven't wanted to sell him since, just because he kind of hangs around, and he's the foundation of my online identity and brand and everything. So yeah, he my baby. He's my little mooseling. He's really cute. So I was kind of planning eventually to remake Mr. Moustache as an actual plushie. Like the guy in my icon, the little guy who's sitting. Can I point properly? Right there. Nope, no. Yes, I'm very bad at this. Yeah, him. Try and make him as a plushie again, just to show my progress from this guy was, oh, I made him right after college, so he's over a decade old now, I think. So I've definitely gotten better, and I kind of want to make a updated version of him. I made my mom actually a winter dragon many years ago, and then remade it recently as well. Because I'm better at what I do now, so I might be using Mr. Moustache as an update as well to show like my first plushie and then my updated one. I think it's really cool doing things like that, like whether it be art or any other skill, stuffing, like making plushies and everything. Just having the original thing that you made and then the new one. Not so much that so that you can look at the old one and be like, oh, this is terrible, but so you can see the progress that you've made and be like, no, this was really good when you made it, but now you've made something else that's really good. So that will be one of my projects. Not anytime soon because I do have so many like paid things, and again, he would be unpaid, and so he gets put on the back burner. But eventually, I would like to make actual Mr. Moustache, just to compare against the original Dapper Moose plushie. Okay, final leg. What kind of knot am I using? What on my thread? That's like to tie the knot in the end of the thread is the most simple knot that you can do. It is not an official knot, it is a snarl. So essentially, like, so there's a couple of different ways if you have. Let me gotta do this. So if you want to tie your thread off when you're hand sewing, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can just do a little overhand knot, and then when you go through the fabric, when you come out the other side, you go back through the loop that of your thread there to essentially tie a tiny little. Let's see, does that work? Yeah, so you essentially make a little loop and you can like lock it in place that way. Or what I do, you take it, you pinch it, you wrap it around your finger several times, then you roll it off of your finger. And then when you've got this big snarl of thread all rolled up, you just pinch it and pull it to the end, and you make a giant ass snarl. What is the hardest plushie that I've ever made? The hardest plushie I've ever made. That's a really good question. Ooh. In terms of most complicated plushie, I not the Star Dragon or the Shoulder Dragons. Those were fairly straightforward once I made them. The Star Dragon, I had a really hard time finding someone who would want it. That plushie sat with me for quite a few years too. I think I first made that in 2018 and I just found somebody who wanted it now. The Shoulder Dragon I had issues with. My fabric stretched in weird directions, so it looked strange. Probably in terms of complexity though, would have been Bo, the Animal Crossing plushie, just because he had so many different parts. Like for example, right now, these little like the lamb fluffs for the head, it's just two pieces of fabric kind of like made into a little pillow and then shaped. What I ended up doing with Bo is I couldn't just make a flat like horn for him because his horns actually curve in two different directions. So I can't just put two pieces together and then shape them. I had to put two pieces together and then rotate them around and connect them like that as it went. Um, I don't have him here anymore. I sold both of the ones that I made. One of them went to England. The other one is here still in the United States somewhere. That was probably the most complex plushie that I've made to date. The current one that I'm working on, Lan, uh, this guy here, and then, oh, where's his arm? Oh, yes. This one here will be the most complex one when I'm done with him. Just because he's going to have articulated joints, he's going to have the mochi paw pads that are extra squishy. He's got a whole bunch of different color blocking, like these lines here. Everywhere there's a line, that's somewhere that the color changes. He's going to have a visor on his face that's interchangeable. So they'll be attached with Velcro that you can take one visor off and put a different visor on. And then he's going to have hair that is actually that gradient. So this is going to be the most complex plushie that I've made once it's made. But I am waiting for feedback on the shapes of the ears and everything before I continue with making the next parts of him. Yeah, and things like that. Those are my favorite uh part of making the stuffed animals. Like I love doing those kinds of really complex, completely unique guys. But again, it is kind of hard. That's a very limited audience that I'm selling to just because of the price. The land plushie, all said and done, if I was actually charging properly for that plushie and not just doing it at cost for my portfolio, that amount of complexity would probably push it up over $1,000 easily. Like we're yeah, just the basics of that plushie are already $1,000. With all the extra little add-ons and the changes that I'm making, that would be an incredibly expensive doll. Potato was different. Potato was fun. Potato is the first doll that I did resin work on. I've made a couple of resin things since then, but that was the potato plushie was the first time I'd used resin on a plushie. So that was pretty cool. Plushie himself of potato. That was fairly easy because just potato is easy shape. Yeah, the majority of the cost of plushies is just the time spent working on them. Like on in complete honesty, this pig is about $4 worth of fabric. The stuffing, the fabric, everything in this plushie is about $4 worth. But actually making it from start to finish takes me about 2.5 hours. So the majority of the cost of the pig comes from that 2.5 hours of work. The hair for actually the hair on the potato was not all that difficult. So what I do, like how you make hair for stuffed animals, you use something that's called the paper towel method, where you literally take a piece of paper towel and like pin it in place on top of the plushie and then cut the bits where you want the hair to be. Then, when you're all done, you take this piece of paper towel off of the plushie and trace it out onto the fabric, and you have your hair shape. So, hair was not all that tough. It was time consuming again. Like, you have to sit there and like draw and then trim the paper towel where you want it. But if you mess up, you just pull the paper towel off and put a new one in place and start over again. So, it wasn't super difficult that way. The hardest part, I think, of the plushie, the potato plushie, was making the hat to fit because the hat that I made for the plushie was actually a human sized hat that I had to scale down to plushie head size. And when you scale patterns that far, sometimes some kind of funky things happen. Like for example, on these lambs, they have a giant neck hole here. Like that is a fairly round hole. And it's made to match up with the body because the body is fairly large and round. But on the actual pattern for these guys, the hole on the actual pattern is only this. Like, well, twice around that. But it's a very small hole. It is nowhere near the size of the actual hole. And that's because this fabric stretches in a certain way. And so I have to take that into account. I don't want to cut a giant hole out of the fabric because it's going to stretch and become even bigger. So the hat pattern that I was using for the potato plushie was fairly large, and when I scaled it down, it didn't scale quite right to the fabric. So I ended up making a hat that was very like oval shaped instead of round. So then I had to then go and adjust all the shapes and sizes to account for that to make it round again instead of that oval. Yeah, there is a lot that goes into plushie making. Just even knowing the type of fabric that you're working with, it's there's a lot that goes into it. Um, there are some easy like starter type plushies that you can start with that like introduce you to it, but when you start getting into really complex or like combining different types of material together, it really does help to have made those little guys first and just kind of practice and learn as you go. That's part of the reason like this guy here, his face is not going to be this blue. It's going to be an actual blue, but like not this color. I made this out of like a cheap fabric just to test it. And like even me knowing what I'm doing, I had to bring in a couple of the lines. It's not quite the shape that I'm looking for. So just kind of playing around and making the test patterns first really is helpful when you're doing plushies because sometimes things don't play right, the fabric will fight you in ways that you're not expecting it to. Um, so the tests are really important there. And then knowing kind of what you're doing. Like anytime you work with like a minky, it's going to stretch sideways. It just depends on what kind of minky, because some of them will stretch a lot more than others. As I let go of it. And knowing what stretches where, and like the embroidery, the eye doesn't stretch nearly as much as the rest of it does. So like knowing what you're doing, and like minky, you have to make it like 30% squishier horizontally, because you have to assume that it's going to stretch back out once it's got the stuffing in it. So it's a lot of just little knowledge bits that you acquire over time. Um, I really like it though. I think it's a lot of fun doing all the puzzling, like creating the 3D puzzles out of the fabric, and figuring out how things are going to work. That's kind of my favorite part of it. My failures usually get torn apart, and then I use the bits for the next test. Like this ear is going to be ripped apart. I'm going to chop it down and turn it into the next version of the ear. And then this fabric, once I'm completely done with this plushie and I have no more use for this plushie ever again, I take them apart. I scan them so that I have a copy of this fabric just in case I need it for a future plushie. And then I end up either using this stuff for stuffing in other plushies where I need it to be a little bit more firm, or I just end up throwing it away. So I use the cheapy stuff and I try to reuse it as much as I can before I toss it. But there is a lot of waste that goes into the test versions of plushies. Yeah, and all the little scraps and bits, things that might be too small for the current plushie that you're working on, but you are still too big to like want to throw away and waste. I have my scrap bin, which used to be full of popcorn, and now it's full of little bits of fabric that I might one day have a use for. So, yeah, just my little bits, things that I've cut around from other guys. I'll collect them and then use them. Like this pig here, all of his spots came from my scrap bin. That's actually the same color as the lamb face. So all of the little bits that I cut away from those lamb pieces, I pulled them out and was able to use them as spots. Yeah, this is also my good fabric. This is like my high quality, very soft and squishy minky. The stuff that I use for the prototypes is much cheaper and not nearly as soft and fluffy, but it does stretch the same way. So anything that I make out of it, I know will work out of my final good minky because it's going to stretch the same way. And that's a lot less expensive to use that stuff. These minkies, like my really nice minky, a full yard of it is anywhere from like $13 to $20. The cheap fabric that I use for my prototypes is about 7, maybe 8 if it's not on sale. Yeah, so I use the cheap stuff for the prototyping, because it does. I do add the price of prototyping into like the cost of stuffed animals, which is why like those completely unique guys are more expensive. If I can't use the pattern again for something else, it's gonna be more expensive. Um, so I do add that into the price. Like every prototype is going to add like $5 worth of materials to it. But I use the really cheap stuff so that I don't have to add $20 to the price. That is also one of the reasons that I have in my like terms of service for making custom plushies that I do have a limit on how many prototypes I will make for one thing. Like I'll make the first prototype, I'll show it to you, then you get to make a couple changes, I'll remake it, and then if you still don't like the changes, you get like one more chance to like it, and then I'm just gonna go with what I have. Because eventually, like just sitting here and sewing prototype after prototype after prototype, I'm not sewing anything else, and it's not like it's not economical to do that. Um, I'd have to charge even more if you wanted me to sit around for several hours doing nothing but making ears over and over until you get the exact shape you like. I am pretty good at coming up with the shapes though. Um, so it doesn't, I don't think I've ever needed more than like two prototypes on something before it was the right shape. I have only had one person cancel an order, and it wasn't. No, that's not fair. She didn't cancel the order. She had paid the first half of the order and then ran into financial issues, so she put the whole thing on pause for like 6 months, and then she came back and we continued on. But she just couldn't pay to continue it, so I let her know that like I would just not work on it until she was ready, and she was like, "Oh, that was perfect." Um, what I do for cancellations like that is I do have it in my little terms of service, whatever, that once I've bought the fabric, you're not going to get all your money back because I can't really return that fabric. I have it now, I've spent that money, but you get the majority of your money back. Once I've started cutting fabric and actually doing work, then you're not going to get most of your money back. Especially if I've cut up my actual like good fabric. I can't use that for something else afterwards. So it's yours. I'll send it to you as is, but you can't get your money back for stuff after I've cut up the fabric and actually made permanent changes. Luckily, a lot of my prices are high enough that if you are interested in buying something entirely custom like that, it's because you've already made the decision to spend that much money. It's not so much a like spur of the moment and you've changed your mind. I do get those on Etsy all the time for my little tiny like bat plushies and everything. Like the little $30 ones. I'll get somebody who orders it, and then within 24 hours they're allowed to say never mind, and I do refund them their money there, which is a little bit annoying because Etsy then takes 20 cents from me. But that is a lot better than like a multi-$100 plushie that you can't finish paying for or anything like that. That has thankfully never happened to me. Just had to delay the final payment for half a year. Oh, size? That's actually one of the biggest things I've had like comments on. One of them was a complaint, I think. Most of it's just like comments, and it's always, oh, it's bigger than I thought it was. And so I've started taking pictures of my plushies, like me holding them in my hands to try and give like size indications, because me saying like, oh, it's 12 inches might not be as descriptive. Like 12 inches there might not be as descriptive as me like physically holding it in my hands. And yet, even that, like I'm doing my little Vanna White pose, showing off the size of the plushie, and people are still like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that size." And it's like, "Oh, I tried to make it as clear as I could. I don't know what else to do. I do. I need a banana for scale." I was thinking a soda pop can, but I don't want like brands in there, so I need to have like a generic one. I could banana it for scale though. Here we go. I have a banana. Oh, I could do a fork as well. Yeah. Just all the common I will have multiple pictures with all of these common objects because apparently my hands are not human-sized hands. Okay, so bodies are sewn. Now I get to stuff these and I've got a thread. Okay, I get to snip the thread. And then I get to stuff these and I can attach them to the actual heads so that I have less Hannibal Lecter esque dis whatever bodies. Bodies everywhere. Bunnies would be fun. I made a little stuffed bunny once and I put it next to my pet bunny, Hannibal, to just show it off because I thought it was cute. Like real bunny, fake bunny. I don't let Hannibal touch the stuffed animals that I make, just because he might be an allergen to someone. So he does not come in or help me with the stuffed animals. Uh, uh just because, yeah, I do say that my stuffed animals come from a pet friendly, rabbit friendly home, just in case someone has extreme allergies, but I don't rub them all over him to avoid any issues like that. Yes, Hannibal's a Rex. There have not been people allergic to Rex, but I don't want to risk it anyways. Also, he's fuzzy, and I have enough fuzz in here without him having to contribute any fuzz. So, yeah, I don't want to have to clean all the minky bits and the rabbit bits off of all of my plushies before I mail them. Oh, my Hannibal. We've got a rabbit named Hannibal, and he's actually named after Hannibal Barca, the general who took the elephants over the Alps. So he he's less cannibal, more military. Yeah, we named him Hannibal, and his blankets in his cage were elephant themed, so it kind of all worked together. He's less of a cannibal and more of a he chews on everything but rabbits. If he can commit a crime with his teeth, he will. Okay, stuffing time. Yeah, Hannibal will probably not make any appearances on stream. Um, One where he is hanging out and where I'm hanging out, there is a tile floor in between the carpeting, and he doesn't like walking on tile. He doesn't have toe beans, so he slides everywhere. So he will probably never on his own come over to visit with me. And yeah, I don't really want his fuzz in here anyways, so I probably won't pick him up or invite him in otherwise. If you want to see Hannibal, you'll have to follow me on social media where I sometimes post pictures of him. That was self promotion. I'm really good at. Oh, you think I have a bot set up, Sunday? That I'm gonna have to figure that one out. I'm gonna talk to Judo, see if they can help me with that one too. Eventually, I'll have something set up like that. Okay, there's my first chunky little body. Here's another chunky little body. Yay, okay. Yeah, okay, so I've got to figure out my sound issues. I've got to figure out, well, I need a little, I need to do raid and everything, as well as new follower. So that'll be something to work on tonight as well. I didn't want to try and do like raid and everything at the same time as follower because if I had issues with one, I might have had issues with all of them. And I did. I had the sound issues. So I'll try and put those together um tonight. And then I'll have to do the little commands as well. I'm glad follower works at least. Yes, thank you. I need more stuffing. More stuffing. My schedule. I'm kind of planning on streaming Monday through Thursday right now. Mr. Moose is going to have Fridays off in between the school semesters. So I will probably take Friday off as well just so that we can do like chores around the house together and things like that. And then I won't work on weekends. I do not work. I try not to sew or work on weekends unless I have something very time sensitive. I am trying to be very much better about my work life balance at this rather than some jobs in the I've had in the past. Um, Not bringing work home, and home is just outside of my craft room. Um, so I will probably be working and streaming Monday through Thursday, and then it'll just be when I'm up and awake in the morning. I was aiming for like 10, but I had other stuff to do this morning, so it was I think 11 something when I started streaming today. But if I work like if I start work at like 8, but by starting work I mean I'm sitting here and mostly a zombie because I haven't woken up yet. Um, but I at least can get stuff done for the day before stream, and then I will stream from like 10 until maybe 4, something like that. I haven't really thought it through all that much. Yeah, so we just recently moved to this apartment, and one of the things that I really wanted in an apartment when we were looking for one is I wanted to have a room, like one entire room where I could do my plushie making. And The majority of my plushies stay in this room. Like my work all stays here. The only things that really leave this room is occasionally like these little guys. I've got some little bats that I put together. This is all done by machine here in my craft room. But the final little step is, again, the hand sewing, where I attach the heads to the bodies and then make the ears stick up so that they're not down off to the side. This is about 15 minutes worth of just hand sewing, putting them all together. What I do is I will stuff them, fill the body with beans, stuff the body and the head, and then I put all of the parts, all the body parts, into a little bag together. And then when we are in the evening, just like watching TV or just relaxing and vegging out, if there's something that I can watch and like still look down at my hands, I'll take this bag out and I'll just stitch together some bats while we're doing other things. Um, but these guys are both quick to put together and I can put them down at any moment. So it's not like I'm actually working. I'm just doing something with my hands. I would be doing something fiddling with something anyways, so I might as well make it productive fiddling. But that's not really work in the sense of like making and designing stuffed animals outside of my craft room. So I do try and have that balance of this is where I work, that's where I do everything else. Yeah, like the cosplay room or the streaming room. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like just I think it's nice like when I'm done at the end of each day, when I'm all done making my stuffed animals and everything, I clean up this place, I put things away, and then I walk out and I don't have like stuffed animal pieces laying all over or like reminders of work all over the house. So that's really nice. Our last apartment, I was very much just kind of moving my stuff around and finding places to work. I had a sewing machine on one end of the house and my cutting table on the other side of the house. So I had to walk through everything to get from one to the other. Now I can go from my work table over to my sewing machine very, very quickly, and there's nothing else in the room to really. Yeah, this is just purely work here. It was absolutely cramped and dungeony. Not my favorite apartment by a long shot. I like this place that we're in here now. So this is good, and I do have the workspace so I can actually do this like full time and really focus on making plushies. So I like this, and I'm streaming now too. I couldn't have done that in my last dungeon apartment either. Oh, it had all sorts of issues. It was it was a place to live. And that's really what can be said about it. We were capable of living in that apartment. Oh yeah, every place does have issues. Like even this place is not like perfect, but it's certainly better than where we were living last time. Um like for example, I have windows that let in light now. Like, I have issues with my internet here, but like the router's on the opposite end of the apartment. Uh, we had issues even like next to the router in our previous apartment, and the walls were solid concrete. It was half underground. There was no light. It was not great. It was really hard to live there. My plants like having the windows a lot more here. Okay, so I am sewing the head on. Going back to like talking about plushy stuff. I am sewing this head on, but the first thing I did is just attach the side here, and now I'm going over to attach the side here, like straight across. This is not going to hold the head on. What this is going to do is just make sure that the two side seams are completely lined up. And then once that's in place, I'm going to go around and actually stitch it together. So it would be possible to just pin the head in place, and I do that frequently on other plushies. Like the ear here is just pinned in place all the way around, holding it down. It's harder to do that on this plushie just because of how thick and fluffy this Sherpa is. So there we go. The head is attached. So that way my side seams are just going to line up. We did end up running a cable from the Wi-Fi extender to my craft room. Um, the problem with going straight from the router to my craft room, like we have a cord that's long enough, but the router is where my rabbit is, and he likes chewing on cords. So in order to bring it all the way here, we would have to have a cord like draped along the ceiling across the entire apartment. And I'm kind of tired of living in places that look like crap. So I don't really want a cord like that all over the place, like going through multiple doorways and across the center of the kitchen kind of a thing. So we're gonna work probably this weekend on a better solution, see if we can get better internet to me. But that is the only location that we can plug our internet in. I have a like a jack for the internet here, like wherever you plug the router in. I know technical words. It we have one here in my craft room, but it doesn't work. Yeah, it would be hard for us to run a cable across the ceiling just because of where things are. And we have like not straight flat ceiling. We've got like a drop ceiling in one room. We have a like an archway that you'd have to go around down under the archway, and it's just it would be a little bit too complicated. Oh, I'm glad the internet is working. Were you here earlier though? Because the entire thing just died. So today's stream is actually a two-part stream. This is episode 3. Day 2, episode 3, part 2.5. It just completely died and I had no idea what was going on. I restarted my computer because everything on my computer was running slow. I wasn't sure if it was something to do with that or not, and my level of tech support is turn it off and back on again. So that's exactly what I did, and it came back and it was streaming. It was working well, but OBS was still like, you don't have a single camera. And then I was looking at my stream on Firefox, and Firefox was like, no, you got stream and it's working just fine. So I ignored OBS for a while. Um, and then after I fixed the follower alert, it finally told me I had cameras. So that's cool. What do all the other letters in stream stand for? Yeah, I'm gonna have Mr. Moose this weekend look over the internet stuff with me. He is the much more technical one of us two. Um, so he's gonna help me look that over and see what we can do and what we can change around. But he is also preparing. He teaches a class this following summer semester, so he has to be prepared for that and get all of his lesson plans made first. T for torture. That sounds good. The A is for abuse. Also good. Yes, I have watched enough streams of other people to know that causing your streamer grief is a form of love. Rage. Fantastic. So I am kind of planning I would like to have a little PNG tour kind of thing of Mr. Moustache that moves when I talk and make noise and talk, I guess. Um so I was thinking of like redrawing him but like sewing so that he can then he'd have different frames of like stitching in and out of fabric like what I'm doing now. So that he could move when I'm talking. But that is super complex seeming and I need to do the art before I put it together. So that will be a future plan. Oh, I could just have his mustache go up and down. Although I would have to redraw what's behind his mustache because I just drew that as like a solid piece. Um I did not draw him in terms of layers. I could just do his mustache for now and then redraw him later on. Ooh, needle. Okay, so head is all sewn on. What I do with the rest of my thread is I basically just go around again until I've run out of thread, just to kind of secure the head on a little bit further. So some places around here there'll be like two layers of thread just to extra support on that seam there. And there we go. And I can tie off the extra and knot it here. Oh, and to like end the thread, like what you're do at the very end, so that you don't have any like little tails of thread at that knot. What I do is I actually just stab the needle through to a different location, give it a little bit of a tension there, and then cut it short. And when it goes, like when it lets go, the extra tail actually goes back inside the plushie, so it hides it there. So there we go, body together. Now this one will still need the little hair on top and then the horns. So it's not actually done, but his body is together. Yay! Banana for scale. Your hat goes there. Your hat's gonna just sit right there. Okay. Uncover his eyes so we can see. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Sunbay. Enjoy your exercises. Okay, body number 2. And again, this one gets pinned in place at the seams. And I'm going to go cut my nail because that's a little bit sharp there. The most frustrating part of working with like this Sherpa, and the reason I usually don't, unless I have lots of lambs, is that if you have any sort of roughness on your skin or nails, it catches in the fluff so easy. It's just really tough to work with that way. Yeah, Sherpa is really meant for like smooth hands. It is so soft and fluffy though, so it's worth it, but it's annoying. Like you will find every little like snag on your nails immediately, and then you'll have to go like take care of them. Go. Oh, look at all of that fuzzums. Oop. I know, cut his arm. Okay, that's all the way around, and then I've got the extra thread, so I'm just going to continue on. And I'm going to tie my knot right here. And then feed the needle through again to somewhere else. There you go. Both the bodies are done. Now I get to do all the accessories. Yes, now they get to dress up. Well, and horns. But they get their cute little crowns, they get their cute little fluffing. And this is just pretty much an eyeballing it, making sure it looks even-ish. There we go. Fantastic. That looks pretty good. Yep. There. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is just close up this hole that I made on the back. This is how I flipped it inside out, or right side out. And it's not going to end up being seen on the final plushie. It gets stitched down over the top of the head there. So it does not matter how pretty I make this. So I'm just doing some really quick back and forth stitches through it, and then I'm going to just pull it a little bit tight to close up the hole just a bit. And there we go. There's still a little bit of a hole there and it's got some stuffing coming out, but that is okay. Again, this is going to be all covered over. And actually, I'm really close to the edge, so I'm going to just continue with this without cutting the thread. So in order to get the shape that I have on this guy, where it's got the 3 separate little chunk bits, it looks like. What I end up doing is I just take this single chunk and I put a line of thread around and then I tack it down in place so it stays in place. But that'll basically create those little creases so it looks like there's 3 little cloudy chunk bits. It's just slightly more accurate to the game. But I also don't want to pull on this right there, so I'm going to tie a knot first before I go. That way it'll only pull from this corner or from this little section. It won't pull from the center there. So there we go. There's my thread going all the way around, back to the beginning. Can do another little tiny stitch there. And I've already got that line forming. So, don't know how well that looks on camera. But I do have the line here and no line right there. And then just to make sure that that thread stays in place, I just go back and forth from the front to the back, straight through the fluff. Okay, there's my first section. Again, I'm going to tie that off so it stays where it's supposed to. And then I'm going to bury this thread. This is not enough for me to go around the other side there. There we go. And I don't want it to get tangled around the little fuzzy bits, so should not be looping up like that. That's how you get a tangle. Oh, Graham! Interesting things must be happening outside. He's such a good kitty. Nothing that you can see, but you don't have special cat eyes. He can see all sorts of things that only cats are aware of. He would meow at the dishwasher. Yeah, they have extra cat perception. Cats know things that we could only hope to someday learn. Also, he's just a goober. Okay. Center this one too. Oh no, Graham! He doesn't deserve to be trapped by a string. I feel like that's a very cat owner kind of thing to be like, oh, you got yourself in trouble, but let me take a picture of you first. I'll help, but let me take a picture. I mean, I have, I think, more pictures of Hannibal on my phone than any other picture combined. Animals are just so photogenic when they're being stupid. Well, not quite centered on that one, I don't think. Okay, I think that's good. So I can add the fluffs now. Oh, Quotebot 2. I need to make a little list. Hang on, let me write things down. Uh, okay, I have notes to work on for tonight and or later on streams. Things I need. Graham's in the Discord. Okay, as soon as I'm done streaming, I will check that out. Hey, thanks, Miles. So I got the face together, I got the bodies together and attached. I'm working on the little fluffies now. After that, it will just be the little horns, which need to be flipped. Little horns to attach to the sides, and then the crown for the non-magnetic one. And I just need to close up the little hole in the magnetic crown. But is it the right one? Are you the magnet one? Maybe not. There we go. That's the magnet one. So that one's already done crown wise. So I just need to attach the little fluffums and horns pretty much on this one. Their capes are already done. I pre-made some of those. Uh, so they'll get those right as I'm packing them up to send them out. So that the capes don't get covered in the fuzzies. They've got enough fuzzies on the lambs themselves right now. They don't need any help with, yeah, fuzz lambs. They don't need any help with the capes being fuzzy right now. I do have my little lint roller that is already covered with some of the fluffs. They'll get a thorough rollering before I mail them out. That's not enough thread for there. Whew. Okay. These little head fluffs sew on pretty quick because all I'm doing is really attaching it to the head. I don't have to sew the fluff or anything like that. That's all done. It's just the attachment here. So these don't take nearly as long as, say, sewing the leg into the body. Take my pin out because the thread's holding it down in place now. And then I do embroider the entire top of the head, but then I end up covering part of it with the fluff. The original design I had, I didn't even bother with that line, but I found that it wasn't holding the gray fabric down in place as well on the actual embroidery. So now I just do that full line and cover it over afterwards. Just a little bit more security to make sure the plush doesn't fall apart anywhere. So that fluffing is on. Just need to tie it off so it doesn't go anywhere. Stab him in the cheek temporarily. Okay, one fluffing on. And that was Magnet Hat, so Magnet Hat can put his hat back on. I don't think either of those are long enough, so I'm going to thread up a third needle here. Sometimes the little piece of thread I have left is not long enough for what I'm looking to use it for, but it's still too long for me to throw away. And so this much thread is less than a penny's worth, but I still feel really bad throwing it out. So I just leave it on the needle until I get another use for it. So I'll have like 3 or 4 needles with small bits of thread on them waiting to use on smaller bits. Oh, that's a giant needle. I don't want that one. I want a medium needle. There we go. I hear an ice cream truck. Huh. Yeah, but what if I need it right? I mean, it's not going to go bad. It's just going to sit here and wait. And I have more than enough needles that I can just keep building up little bits of thread. I can't tell where that ice cream truck is, but it's making me very, very, like, jealous. I want to run out and get something. Oh, I don't think they were actually on my street because the windows are open. I could have heard them very loudly, but I hear them. They're in the distance there. Oh, oh no, just jealous of people who get ice cream. I I don't know if I'd want to work on an ice cream truck. All of that ice cream and you have to sell it instead of eating it yourself. That seems like that's a circle of hell right there. Although I did work at a Walmart uh back a while ago, just out of college. And there was a ice cream truck owner who would come in and just buy like the boxes upon boxes of ice cream, and then those would be what goes into the truck. And the same person drove around our neighborhood later on. Like I recognized the person. And so I was just kind of like looking at the prices of their ice cream versus the price of the ice cream at Walmart, and it was like 3 times as expensive. And I was like, this is terrible. Like responsibly, I should just go buy an entire box of ice cream and eat one each time I hear the ice cream truck going past. But like in my heart of hearts, I'm still a kid and I want to buy the ice cream from the truck. Yes, the one that went hello. I did. I worked at Walmart for a year and a few days. It was so incredibly bad at that store. Um, Basically the time clock said, "Congratulations, this is your 1 year anniversary," and I like started like tearing up and crying because it was so horrible. Like I could not like believe that I had been there a full year, and I quit very shortly after because otherwise I don't know how like mentally well I would have remained. It was not a good place to work. Like I liked some of my coworkers, but the manager I worked directly under, I was stocking ice cream basically, and the manager that I worked directly under was at the same time a micromanager and also absolutely hands off. Whereas in order to correct our stock, I would need a very specific, like the Telzon tool to scan things. And then I could submit them to be like looked over and put into the system, all my corrections. And he would tell me to go do these things, to like spend the entire day doing corrections, and then get angry at me for not doing anything but the corrections. And then I would submit the corrections to him to fix, and he wouldn't. And then he'd be angry the next day that things were still off. And it's like, I can't do anything more than this. And then the just some of the people that were hired just did absolutely no work, which meant I got yelled at for that as well. It was not fun. Yeah, like when Judo left Target, it's like, oh yeah, I completely approve of that. Like it's not a good job. Like it should be a very simple job. Like you go in, you stock things, you do your work, you go home. Like it doesn't require like higher level thinking. You're just there to function and work and go home, and it should be a very simple job. Like that's easy. Like leave that for people to do. Like that's a fantastic job, but like having to deal with all of the bullshit around that job was just it was not fun at all. Like yeah, like it was not what I thought I'd be doing after graduating from college, but I thought also when I first started, it was like, okay, this is going to be a very simple job. Like, I'm going to just take boxes, refill, put boxes away, and it'll leave me time to like. I won't come home mentally exhausted from things because there's not no real exhaustion to the job. It's just like physical labor. And it turned out to be like playing Jenga and chess with a monkey. It was not a good place for me to be. Yeah, I quit that after I put in my 2 weeks notice like on day 366. Yeah, yeah. That Walmart was not I don't know if it's all Walmarts in entirely or if it was just that specific one. But I still get very antsy even just walking into Walmart to shop there now. I try not to shop at Walmart because it still makes me antsy just the reminder that like that was probably the worst job I have ever had in my life, and it really should not have been. It should have been just a very simple, easy to do job. Yeah, Walmart is just it's one of those liminal spaces that is just nasty. I don't like it. Perfectly reasonable people walk into Walmart and just turn into like little monsters. The ice cream truck is coming back. I hear it again. Yeah, that Walmart. Yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, I very much became not a fan of Walmarts in general after working there, and I won't do that again. I'm kind of over retail entirely. I I don't enjoy customer service. Oh, the discount candy. That is a big draw. That is an absolute big draw. I always say that I'm going to go in for the discount candy and then I don't. I forget and then it's like a week later. And by the time I actually do go in, it's just like boxes on the shelf, cardboard boxes. So I always say I'm going to get discount candy and then I don't. Yeah. Yeah, and it always feels like Walmart has like a dozen lanes with one open. And it's like that's not helpful. Lines all over the place, people waiting. There's a grocery store, the one closest to us here. Um, they have 21 lanes, and they had at least 14 of them open the last time I went grocery shopping, which I think was the first weekend of the month. Maybe. Yeah, last no, 2 weekends, 1 weekend, last weekend I think it was. I don't remember. No, not last weekend, because that was only 2 days ago. So yeah, a week and a bit ago, went there and they had like over half of these aisle or these checkout lanes open, and there were still lines everywhere. Yeah, yeah, Walmart with like one checkout lane. You'd think if you were a store, your whole purpose would be to sell things, and you need to like actually take people's money in order to sell them. Awesome. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, like why would you think one is a good choice? The big one in all the previous place, uh that Walmart, when I was working there, Sunday after church, everybody would come and they would be like incredibly rude and nasty, and it's like why? Like this should be a happy day time, whatever. Like why are you coming from church and being immediately nasty? Like no. No, you don't know anything. And it was just frustrating. I liked the ladies who came to Joanne Fabrics after church. They were always in a good mood and on their way to brunch, and I loved them all. Oh, well, I wasn't a restaurant worker, so maybe that they were nice to me because they were going to go be nasty somewhere else. But I always had the ladies come in for like their sewing machine parts on their way to brunch, and they were always in a good mood, like just meeting up with each other. It was grandma ladies. at Joann's. Um, at Walmart, it was people of all ages who would come in, and they'd just be so grumpy. The students at Walmart were terrible because they just kind of left chaos in their wake wherever they went. That's true. Walmart's not a place you go if you want to go anywhere. Walmart is where you end up when you need cheap things and you don't have a Target nearby. Okay. There you go. Crown I had to sew off stream basically because it's black on black, so I had to like squint at it really up close to get that nice line. But crown should be done now. Woo! Come on, Knots. Don't be rude. Come on. There we go. Oh, see, when I was in college, we were in a really small town college, and we had a Wegmans that was only a short walk away. And by short, I mean longer than it should have been. But we were college kids at like 3 a.m., and we were like, yes, let's go shopping at the 24-hour Wegmans. So we would walk to Wegmans at any point, and that was a cool hangout place. But they also had like a hot food bar and like cooking classes and everything there. They were a little bit more places that you could hang out instead of just the aisles of a store. I like Wegmans a lot. That's oh yeah, that's pretty far. I don't actually know where our closest Wegmans is. There's not one in the area here, but down where Mr. Moose works, I think there is one there. It's just not on his route home at all, so it would still be like it'd be a day trip kind of a thing, and I don't want to do that. As much as I love Wegmans as a store, I don't think I want to do a full day trip just to get some of their off brand Oreos. I think I'm actually going to call the stream here today. So, got that little guy's crown on, got their puffs on. Um, this will give me a good time. I can go get something to drink and then rewatch my stream back. Um, just to see what I did well and what I did not do well. Homework. And then I can work on trying to figure out alerts and bots and stuff. And then when I fail utterly to do that, I can go running and crying to judo and ask them for help. So, oh, thank you. I was trying to make a little bit more complex overlay and I failed, but I do like what I came up with. I think it looks nice. I did the little dotted lines so that it looks like stitches. That's kind of what my plan was. Like, oh, I sewed the video onto Twitch. Ha 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 ha. Um, I'll probably fiddle around with it more later on, but for now I think it works. So, yeah. Oh, I didn't even use it today, but I did change, let's see if OBS works. Yeah, I made a full screen so it doesn't have the little sewing machine or anything down in the corner. But then chat kind of runs over the edge, and I don't know. I don't want to make it any smaller. You already can't really read it. It's already tiny. But this is at least a little bit bigger, so if I'm really focusing in on something, I can just do one screen um for the table or for one of my sewing machines. So yeah, I did that. I made it slightly different. And I have another screen for if I do things on my computer, so I can show off like my computer screen. And Judo showed me how to do a window, and I can't figure it out, so I'm gonna have to ask them for that as well. But I don't really have any on the computer projects right away. I think the next one I will do is the paw for the land plushie I'm working on, and I still have to do the ear before I do that. So yeah, there's no task list on the full screen one because I couldn't figure out how to make it fit. Um, but I do have it on the other layout, so it just a little indication of what I'm gonna be working on that day. Yeah. And then when I finish something, I'll just take that off the list and the next thing down will slot up and be visible. So I generally have an entire list of tasks to do at the same time. I put a whole bunch of things together and then kind of pick and choose from them. So the things at the top of the list are the most important ones, but if I'm really not feeling it, instead of forcing myself to go through there, I do have other tasks and things that I can complete at the same time, all other things to work on. So, okay. Well, thank you, Pick, for stopping by and watching me stream, and to everyone else who may be lurking as well. Uh, thank you so much for that. And I will be back tomorrow, uh, somewhere between 9 and 11 Eastern Time. Uh, Depending on how awake I am in the morning. And then I'll stream again until either my technology dies or I am too tired and want to go get something to eat. So, thanks for stopping by, and I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to do the raid thing again. Or if there's anybody on who streams. Let's see. Aname. I do not know this person. Is it Aname or a name? A name. Okay. Well, that's not a person then, is it? Um, the only person that I follow that is really well, there's a whole bunch of like people who don't really need raid. Like Kid Boga has 6,000 some people on. I'm not going to be doing that. I don't even know if you can, but anyways, that's not necessary. ISO is on. I could raid ISO Etoro. I was gonna see if I could raid somebody else who is making stuffed animals, but there's only 4 or 5 stuffed animal makers on Twitch that I know of, and none of them are online. But tomorrow I might actually be able to raid into another stuffed animal maker. Depending on if she's streaming or not. She only streams on Wednesdays, so I will maybe have to keep streaming until she normally comes on and then see if I can raid into her, because that would be thematic. So Sophie? Okay. Oh, playing Zelda. Okay. Yeah, we'll do Moose Raid again. I like that one. Until I get my own little emojis and things. Emojis? Emotes? Okay. Emotes, yeah. Woo! Look at that. Okay. Look at me being fantastic at streaming. Yeah. Thanks, Judo. I am gonna have a couple more questions for you after I do everything and like rewatch my stream to see what happened when it crashed earlier today. But I will send you a message on Discord after I finish doing that, make some food, and then clean up and everything. So, yeah. Mostly about setting up the little exclamation point commands and everything. So, okay. Well, Reed's almost ready to go. So, thank you so much for stopping by. I will be back tomorrow.